Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. The information on today's program was gathered from many different places and many different people. If you hear yourself in our conversation today, know it's not all about you. For speaking appearances or support, give us a call at 727-422-1833, 727-422-1833, or send me an email, dick@ewfw.org, dick@ewfw.org. Today's topic I'm going to tell you is going to be fun. I hope leaders you're going to get a big kick out of this because, well, we got a big kick out of putting it together. It's called Blueprint. Blueprint, a copy of a design, plan, or other technical drawing. First of all, you need to know that blueprints have been gone for a long time, and it seems like people are using the word blueprint awful lot. So let me take you there just a little bit. You see, the blueprint process was introduced in the 19th century. The process allowed for quick and accurate reproduction of documents used in the construction and industries. The blueprint process was characterized by light colored lines on a blue background, a negative of the original. They were disposable copies of original hand-drafted engineering and architectural drawings that were not easily replaced and too valuable to leave to the office. Now, blueprints were replaced on most part by white prints or large format copies of the original drawings over the last 20 or 30 years. These did not use the standard ammonia-based method. And for all of you who have ever worked with these, you know that the ammonia raised off the top of those was sometimes about knock you over. Well, they lasted longer and they were cheaper to reproduce. Now the industry has turned to large format printers and plotters that are fast, efficient, easy to use, affordable, don't smell like ammonia, and are safer and operator friendly. The last blueprint machines in my city were produced overseas before World War II and hauled out to the garbage. Well, we did it about 15 years ago. So why are business gurus, that probably not be me, but one of those business gurus, still using the word blueprint? We just attended a blueprint opportunity with a church here local. I thought it was kind of funny that the organizations, we're going to have a new blueprint for our church. Well, if you're going to introduce a new plan when it's outdated name, I don't understand how that's going to stand the test of time. When I hear someone say, we will be putting together a new blueprint for our organization, implying they are planning for the future using the state-of-art information, I hear we're behind in our thinking, out of step with resources, and we need a new plan and have no idea how to begin. That's pretty scary too, by the way. Well, I hear, well, let's get something down on paper. It will not matter if it lasts or not. We did something, didn't we? Now that's the question that always seems to happen. We did something, didn't we? Well, what'd you do with it? What were the measurements? What were the metrics? Let's follow up this just a little bit farther down the line. You see, organizational mapping, mind mapping, vision, mission, strategy, a new day, a new way, a shift from the old, and a new exciting, workable, executable model. I hope you grabbed a hold of those words. Leaders, those words mean so much more than these old ones. You see, it's a shift of thinking. It's a different paradigm shift of thinking, of new, exciting, workable, and executable models. Let's talking about the organizational mapping. Let's just take a minute and look through it. You see, when I heard Stephen Covey say, "Begin with the end in mind," many years ago, I knew immediately what that direction would be needed to be taken. Bring the team together. Put post-it papers on the walls, provide markers and flip charts or whiteboards. Start the open, honest discussion. Start with the question, what does our name stand for? When I go into work with companies, churches, organizations, I always ask them, what's the name of this organization stand for? It amazes me over and over that no one knows. When I ask about the vision, who are we serving? The mission, what do we need to do to make it happen? The strategy, what do we need to do to make it happen? Think about that. Think about it. What does our name stand for? What's the vision? What's it look like? Who are we serving? What's our mission? Why are we doing this? And what do we need to make it happen? What's the strategy? Over and over, when I hear someone they're going to have a blueprint discussion, and I think to myself, well, you're already behind the times. You're already backward thinking. You're already old time thinking. You've got to take and bring it to the front. Let's look at some new strategies. Let's talk about organizational mapping. Let's talk about putting it together. Unlike all roadmaps, the destination doesn't change. Who we are serving does not change. Navigating the route will sometimes change with a correlation and slight change of course. How many times have you gone somewhere back in the day before GPS and you had that big paper map laid out in front of you and you'd drawn your line on how you're going to get there, but when you got to a certain point you were driving along, you found the road was closed or the bridge was out and you had to make a detour. Well, that's the same thing. Your destination didn't change. The purpose, the reason it didn't change, but the route changed. Slight change of course. You see, mind mapping is a subset of the original organizational map. It allows each piece of the map to be worked out so the pieces of things that need to be done, who is accountable, a timeline, a budget, and who the number two is with two deep leadership models are written and connected. You see, with this mind map, you get to take each part and piece of that journey and you break it down into smaller pieces. But each one of those has to have an accountability factor with it. And I'm going to tell you that with an accountability factor comes a timeline. When is it has to be done? It needs to have a budget affixed to it. What's it going to cost? And it needs to have two deep leadership. Somebody's in charge, but someone who is right there standing beside them in case the person in charge, something happens. What if they get in a car accident? What if they get sick? What if they move away? You see, two deep leadership. And that two deep leadership model, I have to tell you, I learned in Boy Scouts. And I've used it over and over in every organizational mind map that we've ever done. We know that it works, and we know it works every single time. Because we know life happens, and people change, and people move, and some things just are out of your control. So, how's this going to work? Well, I want to tell you that mind mapping oftentimes will generate more enthusiasm and excitement in the long term success of individuals, companies, and organizations, both for-profit and non-for-profit. This thing of the Too Deep leadership and building these parts and pieces puts more people in play. And when more people are part of it, they are part of the total solution, the total opportunity, the total vision. And they become part of it and they buy into it, and so they move forward with it. But if you're just going to do a blueprint and you're going to stick something up on the wall that maybe people are going to read one time, failure, death of your organization will happen. We see this in nonprofits more than any place else, where the nonprofit means well, and they mean to do good, and they do the best they can. They bring people on board, and they come up with a fancy vision statement, and no one knows what it is. If you walk into an organization or a corporation and you ask someone sitting there who is not on the board, or even if they're on the board, ask them what their vision statement is. I'll almost guarantee you 99 out of 100 times they will not be able to take and give it to you. You see the problem now, don't you? You see the opportunity starting to arise in your mind. You're thinking to yourself, well, if not everybody knows the vision, how can everybody be on board? You're starting to understand. You're starting to understand. This enthusiasm and long-term excitement, I'm going to tell you what, when more people are involved and understand and move it forward. Blueprints are short-lived. You know, blueprints wouldn't last very long. They would fall apart. They would be destroyed. You'd have to reproduce them. Blueprints are short-lived, and image dissolves over time. We were going through some things here in the office, and we pulled out some original blueprints of a building we built. All the lines had dissolved. Everything had gone away, but it still stunk like ammonia. So we turned them over and let our granddaughter do artwork on the back of them. And then we threw them away. Understand that dissolves over time. Organizational maps move you on the road to the future. They find a better, more accurate word than blueprint. I have to tell you that when we went to this last church meeting and they told us we were going to go to a blueprint rewriting of the church, Miss Robin and I kind of sit there and we looked at each other and said, didn't we just write something on this? And somebody said, well, you know, we read that, but we didn't understand it, so we had to explain it to them again. And we showed them how to put an organizational map in place. Now, here's the funny part, or good part. We were working with two churches at the time, and the one church understood organizational mapping, and they put it into place, and they got a group of people together, and that group grew, and the group grew, and they started chopping it down in pieces, and the church is growing. The other church who wanted to have their blueprint society is dying. It's dying a slow death, and they don't want to listen. They don't want to grow. They don't want to know. We've done all we can to help them. But the leadership there has made a decision. And that decision is they're going to close the church. It's not just churches, ladies and gentlemen, this happens to. This happens in every organization that we've ever been involved with or been called in to work with. Miss Robin and I always do our best to go and sit and listen first. And then when they ask us, what do we think? How can we help? We try to put them on the right path and get them organizational mapping going. We try to get as many people of the organization together as we can to do that map. You see, we understand that it takes the leadership, but also takes the people within the organization. When everyone is on the same page and everyone's headed in the same direction, even if they're not all taking the same path, they all know where they're going to end up. And that's the important piece. So when you hear this words, blueprint, change it. Call us. Go to organizational mapping. You don't understand it? Get a hold of us here at Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training Development. It's pretty easy. EWFW.org. You can click on that little button, send us a message. We'll get back to you in a heartbeat. All right, let's take it to something fun now. It kind of goes along with the same way because talks about the 9 ways to happiness. And for me, happiness is good motivation to build organizations that work. And not work just because of the organization, but work for the people within the organization. Hey, makes sense. Let's talk about it. 9 ways to happiness. Well, the first one on the first 9 ways of happiness is remove yourself from toxic relationships. Remove yourself from toxic relationships. When you find yourself in a relationship, no matter how small, that is not supportive, encouraging, and accepting, move away quickly. Never allow others to bring you down. Never allow others to take and put that stamp on your head. So remove yourself from toxic relationships. Number 2, stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Truthful evaluation will bring a self-awareness that allows you to build your self-esteem and your success quotient. I can't explain this enough. I can't even tell you about it enough. When we lie to ourselves that everything's okay and everything's wonderful and it's all peaches and cream and all those things, you're just telling yourself an ugly lie. Taking time to have some truthful evaluation and with being self-aware of where you're at right now. How'd you get there? What can you change? What do you need to do to move ahead? The best way that I can encourage you to look at this is to keep a journal. Keep track of what's going on in your life, how things are going, and what went well, what didn't go well, and what can you do to make a change? Put something different. But if you don't take the time to do that simple evaluation, well, it's not simple. I shouldn't say that to you. Sometimes self-evaluation is almost bring you to tears because you know what you did. You know what you didn't do. You really don't need anybody else. But for me, I oftentimes use a sounding board to find out how am I doing. And then after that, I go back and take some time on my own to really put it into place. Number 3 of the 9 ways to happiness. Number 3, learn from the past, look to the future, but live for today. You see, dwelling on the past for anything but evaluation and learning will hold you there. Keep an adventurous eye on the future and live fully every day. So many times I'll run into someone and I'll find out that 3 or 4 years in their life set the entire tone for the rest of their life. And even though they're in their later stages, they're still stuck in those couple of years. Now, there's some terrible things that happen to people in life, and there's been some terrible things happen to Miss Robin and myself. But you can't stay stuck there. You have to look to the future, but you have to live for today. You have to get up every morning and find that new great adventure. I think that's the most fun for me is what's my adventure going to be this morning? And even though I make a lot of plans, I have a to-do list, I have my daily 5, I'm always looking, What can I make an adventure out of? Sometimes doing a radio show is an adventure. Getting everything to work right is sometimes just a big adventure. But it's all up to me. That's what I had to learn. So 9 ways to happiness. First one, remember, remove yourself from toxic relationships. Number 2, stop lying to yourself. And number 3, learn from the past. Look to the future. Live for today. Number 4. I should have been a game show host. I know that. Number 4, don't settle for less. Don't settle for less. Go for it. When we settle for less than what we want, there's always regret and sadness. The worst that can happen is that you get what you want. Otherwise, it's a learning opportunity. You know, settling for things is never a happy ending. I've worked with couples who have settled instead of looking for the right one. I've worked with people who have owned their own companies who have settled instead of doing what needed to be done or taking a risk. I've worked with people who settled and now they're older and they regret not taking the risk, taking the chance. You see, life is all about risk. Getting up in the morning, putting your feet on the floor is a risk. You might fall down. Getting in your car, you might have a car accident. You know, things might happen. But if you just settle, it seems like you turn into just a blob. And that's unfortunate for anybody. So don't settle. Don't settle for less. Number 5 is one who I get a kick out of, just so you know. When we were putting these together, we found out that stop waiting for perfect. By golly, if you wait until it's perfect, someone else has already got it done. Perfection is the goal, not the norm. You see, even Miss Robin will tell you, nobody's perfect. Nothing's perfect. Even when you think it's perfect, it's not perfect. We weren't meant to be perfect. But I'll tell you this much. If you've got an invention or if you've got an idea and you wait until you've got it perfect, I guarantee someone else has already got it in place and doing it. I worked with a young fella that had a great invention. Boy, this thing was it was almost as good as a toaster. It was good. But he kept putting it off. I kept pushing him. I kept telling him what we needed to do. I kept working with him. I kept pushing him along. But he kept procrastinating. By the time he had it perfect, this thing would take and do anything but tie your shoes. Someone else had invented the very same thing and gotten a patent on it. Too late. It was over. Risk reward. Wait until it's perfect. But I tell you what, there was only one perfect person. We put him on a cross, so you best be careful. Think about it. All right. Number 6. Well, we're getting them, aren't we? Be willing to do something new daily. Now, this is a good one. This is fun. I don't care what age you are. If you want to do this and be happy, try something new every single day. The adventure of life is accepting that every day is new and has wonderful opportunities. Doing is always better than wishing. Oh, golly. Be willing to do something new, different. Daily. Just do it. Give it a shot. What the heck? What's the worst that can happen? You might have fun. You might enjoy something. You might learn something. Sounds like a pretty good risk to me. Let's see what we've gotten so far. We said in the 9 ways to happiness, we've decided that first one is to remove yourself from many toxic relationships. Number 2 is stop lying to yourself. Number 3 was learn from the past, look to the future, live for today. Number 4, don't settle for less. Number 5, stop waiting for perfect. And number 6, be willing to do something new daily. Let's look at number 7. Stop selling yourself short. do your best at everything you do. We all have something we are better than anyone else. Find yours. Do your best. I think that was the best thing I ever learned when I was in Cub Scouts. It said, do your best. Not someone else's, not someone next to you. Don't compare and look around. Do your best. If you're doing your best, you'll never sell yourself short. And I guarantee you that we all have something that we do better than anyone else. Now, I don't know what yours is, and I'm not going to tell you mine. Well, probably. I'm pretty darn good on stage, is what I'll tell you. We have a good time. But you know what? Stop selling yourself short. You're a good person. You're good at what you do. There's only you, and there's no one else like you. So no one else can be like you. And you can't be like anybody else. So stop selling yourself short. Number 8. Number 8's a big one for me. Stop making excuses. Excuses are just that. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Instead, think of choices that you have the control to make, and make appropriate ones. It was often said in my world where I grew up that excuses just weren't going to be accepted. You always had a choice, my grandpa said. He said you always have a choice, and it can be the good one, it can be the wrong one, but you always have a choice. And you know what? Excuses, he'd say, they're just that. Nobody wants to hear them. Nobody wants to know about them. We don't care. What are you going to do about it? What's the choice you're going to make a change? You see, that all of it put in a different situation, didn't it? That put it in your court. That put it on your plate to do something with. Number 9. This one rings true. And I tell my granddaughter this all the time. Stop being envious of others. Stop being envious of others. You see, we all have been given special gifts and talents. That's fact. Our job is to discover them and put them to use for humanity. Appreciate who you are and improve as appropriate. Gifts and talents, we all have them. I have some that you maybe not have. Maybe you have some that I don't. The good part is once we really discover our gifts and talents, we can share them with one another to bring the best out in each other. Do you get that? Share them with one another to bring the best out in one another. Happiness, buddy. That's where this all lies. I'm going to go real quick because I see we're running out of time. I'm getting the nod over here. 9 ways to happiness. Remove yourself from toxic relationships. Stop lying to yourself. Learn from the past. Look to the future. Live for today. Don't settle for less. Stop waiting for perfect. Be willing to do something new daily. Stop selling yourself short. Stop making excuses. And stop being envious of others. Whew. What a day we have had. Well, on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability. If you have questions or comments on today's program, we encourage you to just give us a call at 727-422-1833, 727-422-1833. Send me an email at dick@ewfw.org, dick@ewfw.org. Go to our website, www.ewfw.org. Click on that little button, send me a message, and when you know that you're looking for that best next person to come and give a keynote speech or do some instruction on leadership and accountability, give us a call. 727-422-1833. Until next time, DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard. that fast.